So I would like to call to order the Board of Selectmen meeting for May 26th. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Welcome everybody to the Board of Selectmen meeting. Next item on the agenda is the first Selectmen's updates. And with that, I did actually have just 2 slides, which I sometimes do. A couple of things that I've had people inquire about status. And many apologies, I'm recovering from a cold, so I don't have much of a voice and trying to hang in there. But anyways, just wanted to kind of summarize. We put out different communications and had a lot of conversations about the issues of the surf club with the old seawall. And I just thought I'd highlight it in one spot. And I think the key issues are that we had, starting with December of this past year, we had a significant storm, and then a couple of storm events after that caused a significant amount of beach erosion. So we had a lot of sand that was basically swept out to sea due to high wave action at the beach, and the direction of the winds caused a lot of sand erosion. It ended up degrading a portion of the old seawall that dates back to the 1980s, and that's the one that's connected to where we did a lot of the work at government. So that old seawall is become destabilized, and so we've been trying to address that issue. We've done emergency repairs, and I've kind of outlined what some of those emergency repairs. We've had a number of board meetings about those to at least stabilize it and ensure public safety at the surf club. The other issue with the sand erosion is that has exposed a lot of things to the beach we didn't have before, like rocks and things like that. It's also washed away accessibility to the stairs. And so the sand levels are just very different than they were even a year ago. So I know the Beach and Rec Department has been working diligently to continue to do a beach replenishment program. All of this has kind of been done under emergency measures. Any kind of longer term replenishment program, we're going to have to go through a permitting process with DEEP. And so we're just continuing to try to get ahead of it to make things accessible and continue to protect what's there already. Tonight, we're going to be talking more about the long-term plan for the surf club. So there's a lot of great information with our consultant. We've been doing a lot of public outreach. And we'll talk about what might happen to that old seawall rather than continuing to repair something that it may not make sense to have it there in the long run. So those are all going to be part of the planning process that we go through. So the next page, it just talks about another item is what we did do is we retained an independent engineer. I know the public had been requesting that earlier on. We felt some of the repairs that we had needed to be done immediately, and they were critical actually that we did some of the repairs to the erosion after that last storm because we had 2 more storms come in after that. And so our goal was to stop the erosion that was happening behind the old seawall. And so in the meantime, we have this independent engineering report looking at why the old seawall is failing. Which we kind of know why. It's got shorter footings, it's just outdated, and it's used at the end of its useful life. But also look at how the two are connected. And unfortunately, the destabilization of the old wall is now, because it's connected to the new wall, it's causing some stress points. And so we're looking at, whether we separate them or what other joints we could put in place or what other measures we can take to protect the area. And all of these will have to be reviewed extensively before we pull the trigger on what those options are. We'll have a public conversation about it, but that's going to be coming back with this report soon. And then, as I said, the long-term replacement plan is going to really be more about the long-term surf club master plan, which we're excited to see tonight. That is going to involve relocating the building and potentially eliminating the old seawall. And then I just wanted to highlight briefly Academy. I know it's been a little slow going, but the town is going to be working with a professional consultant to look at the site feasibility for septic. It's not even just looking though at what that building could endure with any kind of hospitality usage, but also how it would relate to the entire site including as other municipal buildings. We're going through a master planning process for Memorial Town Hall, the Youth Family Services Building, the Powder House, all these buildings use septic down there. They're all independent systems. And so we're trying to make sure that if we make a strategic decision for Academy, there's going to be an ability to use to service all those buildings with septic capacity. So that's kind of the process that we're doing right now to get some information. Then we'll be coming back hopefully by the end of June with the conclusions from that feasibility analysis. So that was kind of an update I wanted to provide. Obviously, also just to highlight a couple of things, we'll be talking more about the Madison 200. We had our first event last Sunday at the Deacon John Grave House, which included a horse arriving in town announcing that the town had received permission from the legislature to be independent, which was quite fun. So we thank the Deacon John Grave House for all their efforts in hosting that. We will have another event on June 13th. June 13th. That'll be kind of our formal commemoration. And then we're having the town party on June 27th at the Surf Club. So the committee will be talking, our committee chairs here tonight to talk more about those activities. Excited to see that happen. And also just want to mention that we had a wonderful ceremony yesterday recognizing Memorial Day. Despite the rain, we couldn't do the parade, which is always missed. We still had a nice gathering at the American Legion. And we're thankful we could do something to remember and honor all those who've served us. So that is my update today. And I want to turn it over to liaison reports and selectmen comments. Any comments or updates since our last meeting? Yeah.
Board of Ed, the last meeting was really a celebration of the CAVE student winners. So these are students that are, very spectacular academic scholars and also leaders in our community. And so there were varying leaders that were honored. And then also our state principal of the year, TJ Salutary, was honored as well. So had cake and all sorts of fun stuff. So but it was a really nice, uplifting presentation.
Well-deserved honor for Mr. Salutary as well as the students. So it's kind of gives you a nice lift, hearing all the great work that these kids are doing these days. And I know they don't get the credit for their due sometimes, given the challenges they face. So any other No updates. No updates. Yeah. Okay. All right. Move on to item number 5, which is citizens' comments. Just a reminder, this is an opportunity for you to give comments to us. It's not a question and answer session. But if you do have specific questions, you can always email the board at bos@madisonct.org. And if you are speaking, please state your name and address and limit your comments to around 2 minutes. We've got a long meeting. So I know we have some visitors here in the room, so please raise your hand if you'd like to make a public comment. Yes.
Hey, Janet from Madison Avenue. My comment is about the stairs issue at Garden Range. I watched a selectmen meeting from January 22nd, 2024, and that's when SLR originally proposed to you to move the stairs from the original design further up Delm Beach to the sand where it's located now, because the D permits would have taken too long if they put the steps in the original designed location. And at that meeting, Jen made a comment and said, isn't that the place where there was a lot of erosion in the past from the old stairs? And Bruce made a comment saying, well, is it an option to just eliminate the stairs from the plan then and use the money elsewhere in that wall construction? So you all had debated this, and SLR presented that option to you. So, my question is, how did, when they told you that, how did you come to agree to allow the stairs to be moved there when it was kind of obvious that there had been erosion in that or near that spot before? And is SLR liable for now, making these repairs? And are you going to pursue that rather than have the town pay for what I understand is now to be a stair extension to be built over there? My question is, why should the town pay for that when SLR was supposed to be the experts here? Recommended to all to move those stairs to a location that obviously doesn't work. That's my.
Okay. Your comment. Any other comments? Yes.
Andy Valdosa, Horse Pond Road. We had a lot of concerns in the past about different situations. What really concerned me about Garden Point is that state statutes, state codes, building codes call for the local building inspector to inspect Garden Point. It was never done. Okay, the contractor basically did what he wanted there. He had no oversight if he was doing something right or wrong. The breach was between the two walls. I've said this before, it made absolutely no difference. When I brought these concerns to everybody, Peggy, you walked away from me at the building inspector's office when I want to sit down and talk to you. That's really not a way a town should run. I mean, we're citizens here, we pay your salaries. The breach in that wall between the old wall to the new wall connection was caused because the contractor did not follow the engineered plans. Plain and simple, cut and dry, full stop. Okay, wash over from the waves and everything. Yeah, you would have had some erosion. Okay, that was another thing. Paying this gentleman to do the repair without an independent engineer looking at it. It was winter time. You weren't going to do any repairs. You pushed this through. And that was not right to the citizens of Madison to pay for it. Another thing I'd like to know is who caused all the additional damage to the wall after repair? Was it town employees? Was it the contractor with heavy equipment on there after he dumped in all the stone? You have a mess down there, okay? And I don't know where to go with this. I mean, the DEP had the site, well, I don't know if they cited you, but we had conversations with Rob Russo about the environmental infractions that were done there by the contractor. He buried metal, the metal heel coil from the old stairs was buried at the site. It only became visible after the erosion. Okay, we have rebar, rusted rebar, metal, debris, everything sticking out that somebody can get hurt on. That has not been addressed. The citizens of Madison should not pay for a contractor's negligence in this matter. And you've got some culpability here because you did not have the building inspector inspect it. And he's supposed to watch every phase of that construction. And he did not. And I had it confirmed by the state building inspector and the DEP that issued the permit to do that. The local building inspector is supposed to inspect it. I mean, I don't know how you're governing this town, but you're not doing it properly. I mean, you know, it was evident with the academy, now it's evident with the seawall. I mean, there's protocols that have to be followed. Okay, and it's not. And the board of selectmen here should not vote to pay that guy. You guys all voted for it. And then the board of finance threw it in our face when I gave them all the evidence about the infractions there and where the permits were not followed. They said, well, every board of selectmen voted for this. So we're gonna agree to pay for it. That's not how it should be done. Okay, I'm really ashamed of a lot of you here. You should be doing your job and doing it right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. Any other public comment in the room? Yes, please.
Just a couple of other quick notes on that.
Name and address.
Jim Schmaltz, Jonathan's Landing. The like SLR, when they pivoted from the original design to this, you know, I think they just missed or didn't take into account anywhere with the beach erosion. Like the bottom of the new staircase is basically at the same level as the bottom of the old staircase, which you have photos from 2022, when this was all in process of design, that showed, you know, the old staircase up in the air, and they built a new staircase to that same level. So, you know, you pay them, you know, $150,000 for design and consulting, roughly, or just under, plus, you know, another $50,000 for, you know, taking care of the project. They said that, you know, it's supposed to be inland wetlands in the town, and a permit from the town. And, for some reason those weren't done. So that's, add that to it. I went to yesterday I went to the event at the American Legion there, and you did a great speech. We don't always agree or often agree, but you did a great job with the speech. Thank you. That's important, I think. That said, I am disappointed. I sent a letter to the Board of Selectmen asking for simple proclamation for the month of July to be dedicated to for military appreciation, in September for first responders. I did that. I understand we have groups in town that do Memorial Day, they do Veterans Day, they do a 9/11 event. This being 200th year of Madison, the 250th of our country, I thought we, as a town, would want to do something a little bit more. And with September being 25th anniversary of September 11th, being able to get people to rally like they did 25 years ago behind our first responders, sometimes that seems to get a little bit lost. So I was disappointed that, it didn't even make an agenda item or a discussion. It was just, no. And the third thing I know you're shaking your head no, you said we can look into doing a flag rotation maybe or something, but we're not going to get the proclamation. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm not going to respond.
Did I misunderstand your email?
I really don't want to get it back and forth.
Okay.
Because it doesn't. So,
The other,
finish your comments.
when we were in December, we founded out more money for the schools. I was just not sure why we didn't use the academy bonding and transfer it to that. I don't know if there was some reason that wasn't used.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Any other people in the room? And then I'll go to online. Yes.
Hi, Deborah Rogers, 38 Lake Drive. So the unfortunate aspect of climate change is right in front of us, and we're seeing it all too clear. A lot of other countries and states have kind of abandoned hardscapes. Hardscapes are the seawalls, the rocks, the ledge that they're putting in, and they're now more opting for beach nourishment versus hardscapes. There's lots of research and studies that have gone into this. Lots of countries abroad, Portugal, which is exactly the same longitude lines as us across, does not hardscapes in anymore. They now do beach nourishment. When we look at the long term, and you did mention that that is in the plan for the long term, but beach nourishment would be way more effective as a long term mitigation. And I hope that that is definitely in the plans to be looked at, because you could repair that seawall as much as you want. It's just going to keep washing out. Something needs to be there, but hopefully it's going to be more of a long-term research driven with data behind it to show what's going to be the best improvement for Madison. I'm happy to share a few names with you that have done this research that can give you that data and information.
Talking tonight a lot about this and so forth. So yes, in fact,
Hi, Randy Now, 231 Summer Hill Road. I'm a member of the Beach and Rec Commission, and I'd like to commend you all in Austin and anybody else involved for getting the ball rolling on the Surf Club Master Plan. I think Deborah's going to be happy what she hears later. I never thought I'd say I was excited to be at a meeting, but our last meeting, I was very excited to see some of the proposals. Whatever's gone on in the past, whatever we're seeing right now, this is the gem of Madison. And I think it's going to be fantastic. Really hoping everybody in the town can get behind this. Because to me, this is, something that we should all be able to get behind. And we've gotten great public feedback already. And I'm hoping to get more, at the planning sessions and, hear from everybody. So, I'm here with some fellow members of the commission. We really want this to be something everyone in town can enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yes.
Hi, Michael D'Agostino, 28 Green Springs Road. As the president of the board of directors of Madison CT Pride, I'm speaking tonight seeking your support of flying the Pride flag at the town campus during the month of June. For many people, the Pride flag is more than a symbol. It is a message that says every resident deserves dignity, respect, and a sense of belonging in the community that they call home. Flying this flag does not diminish anyone else's beliefs or traditions. Instead, it shows that our town values kindness, inclusion, and equality treatment of all people. LGBTQ plus residents are neighbors, coworkers, business owners, teachers, first responders, friends, and family members. Many young people in particular still struggle with isolation, bullying, and fear of rejection. This visible support from our town leaders can have a meaningful impact. It tells all LGBTQ plus residents that they are seen, welcome, and supported here. Communities grow stronger when people feel safe being themselves. Flying the Pride flag demonstrates that Madison is committed to creating an environment where everyone can participate openly in civic life without fear of discrimination or exclusion. This is an opportunity to reflect on the values of compassion and community that many of us already feel that define our great town. Supporting inclusion does not divide us. Instead, it actually encourages us to recognize that shared humanity and treating others with respect, even when we may have different personal beliefs. I hope you once again choose to fly the flag Pride as a symbol of welcoming, unity, and support for all residents of Madison. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else in the room? Yes, please.
Hi, John Rogers, Lake Drive. So I think I speak for a lot of folks in town, the aesthetic value of the work that was done at Garvin Point. Garvin Point was fantastic. I think it was a well-done project, with the exception, obviously, of structural compromise. Having been there a week ago, it was pretty evident that there's a real potential liability for injury to kids, any adults being in that area. There's police tape that's falling off. There's a little bit of signage that's not incredibly visible, and I just would hate to see. Fortunately, the weather didn't cooperate this past weekend. We would have had a packed surf club and significant potential for kids to be jumping off the wall, landing on the rocks, right? Just injury that I think the town would have a degree of liability to. And so I would just offer that I think we should really take a look at, even though it may not be aesthetically appealing, put some fencing up and secure that area so there's not some risk of injury to kids.
Thank you for your comment. Yeah, let's see if we have any hands raised. I apologize. Doesn't look like there's any hands raised online. Is that correct, Jeannie? There'll be an opportunity.
That is correct.
There'll be an opportunity at the end of the meeting for public comment. Thank you. Obviously got a lot of things to talk about today. So we'll move on to item number 6, which is the consent agenda. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Moved.
Second. And any further comments or questions? No. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Item number 7 is discuss and take action to approve a proclamation acknowledging the 200th anniversary of Madison's incorporation. So we have I won't read proclamation in order of time, but it's great. We'll have it posted on the website, but it's just celebrating the 200th. It's something that we wanted to put into the town records, and the Historical Society will get a copy of it. And to be honest, I was at the Historical Society and I saw they did one back in 1976. So I said, well, we got to do one for our 200th. So anyway, but it does acknowledge Madison's history, as well as acknowledge that we've created this committee, and there'll be more opportunities to celebrate, talk about all the great things the committee are doing. They're going to be presenting that in a few minutes. But this will just be one that we can acknowledge that as our board, we're excited to be celebrating our bicentennials. So
So moved.
Okay. right, all in favor of approving the proclamation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Like I said, this will be posted on the website and then you guys all sign this. And with that, I would like to invite up the chair of the Madison 200 America 250 committee, Roz Kama, who is, I have to give a lot of accolades to, who is undertaking quite a thing. And worked with a lot of great people on the committee. She's got a presentation to talk about where we are. There's been several presentations over the last year, and then all of a sudden it's like showtime. Like it's all coming at once.
It's been 17 months.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Amy, are you gonna advance my slides? Do you have my slides?
Jeannie, we can't hear you. Can you answer us? She's supposed to with these. So.
Is this it?
Oops,
Okay.
I'm coming from here.
Yeah. All right.
And I have a job ski. Okay. So, what the sun was the rising strawberry moon, which rises every year in June. And it is our legacy. Long before this land of Madison, or known as Madison, was inhabited, that moon rose. I'd like to think it'll be here at least 200 years, will rise again. So it is that we are hanging our illustrious celebration this year on. The Board of Selectmen very nicely appointed us to invite all of you to celebrate the legacy and importance of place and the unity through a series of inclusive celebrations. And I will just say that one of the most important things I've learned in this job came from our first Lee lecture, and that was the Hammonassids who first settled this land defined those of us who live here as the Hammonassids. Didn't matter where you came from, didn't matter where you were going. As long as you were here, you were a Hammonassid. So we are unified as the Hammonassids. So there's a wonderful bit of history. And then just recently, ABC on national news announced that Condé Nast has declared us as a wonderful place to visit and be. And so it's not just us recognizing ourselves. I think we should be very proud of this place we call Madison. So next slide, Jeannie. I have an amazing group of people. We've been meeting for 17 months now in planning and understanding our role. Ryan Duquesne and I are public members. Ryan's at a softball game, will be here shortly. Acting as treasurer, not saying he's our bandmaster. All the good music that you will hear is because Ryan's done so. We have appointed members from many of the nonprofits, including Dawn Jackson from Chamber of Commerce, Laura Downs from the library, our illustrious Henry Graves, our town historian, who also took on the John Gray Foundation, Marion Hartnett Historical Society, and Matt Bloom Economic Development. And then two of the three appointees as officials, Al Goldberg representing Board of Selectmen, Bob Donahue here with the Board of Finance, and Marianne Connolly from Board of Education. We've reached out, but collectively, this is the team that shows up once a month, and I can't thank them enough, but I also would like to acknowledge you, Jeannie, for all the good work that you've done. Boston, who's just really been a tremendous resource for us, and Madison South, who's been supporting us in the First Selectmen's office. So it does it, and you're all welcome to participate in some way. So next slide. So being strategic and sort of lining very early on with who we are as a town, it wasn't just about looking back 200 years or 250 years for the country. It was recognizing that we have amazing people in this town who talk about where we've come from and the wonderful folks from James Madison to Curtis Wilcox, who showed up last Saturday to accept the proclamation that we could be independent. But to also know that there is a legacy. There is something that we do create for the future. And we do that by being community and being connected today in the work that we do. And because we are here And we asked everyone why they live in Madison, whether they grew up here, staying here, or they chose to live here. It's a beautiful place. So the ecology is really important, and we recognize that. And so you'll see throughout the themes, all of these will be celebrated. Next slide. So starting with history, there is our horseman, Tom Hopkins, who showed up in faintness behind the wording. You can see Henry Griggs dressed up. It was a great gathering. There were people dressed in historical representation, colonial games. We even had a wonderful drink at the end called Gravedigger for those over 21. We sang America Beautiful, and that was just a wonderful way to sort of kick off the Madison bicentennial celebrations Peggy mentioned on the 13th of June at 11 a.m. Please come, bring your families. It will be our reverent celebration, and we will have dignitaries and a lot of wonderful displays of flags of the past. So we hope you will join us there. The next is, next slide, Jeannie, is our party and our celebration. And so we are going to invite all after this weekend. We're getting a little nervous, but June 27th on a Saturday, rain date the 28th, I'm here to say our good treasurer has taken out insurance. So if we get another weekend like this, we'll do the harvest moon rising. But right now, our bets are on a wonderful weekend. That Saturday, we will have opening ceremonies around 1 o'clock. We're going to invite everyone to figure out which initial school district you live in and march into the park. Our national anthem will be sung by a local resident who went to school here, Alana McDowell. And then we will kick off from 1 to 7 a series of great musical performances. Caleb Cohen, who is a local, is one of our headliners with Jamie McLean. And then throughout the day, there'll be Ian Nyberg as our MC. We will have a variety of announcements. We have a strawberry shortcake bake-off that the Wharf Hotel is sponsoring and organizing, inviting all the chefs from our restaurants to put their best strawberry shortcake out there. And we'll have a number of judges judging them on culinary arts, appearance, and on the best taste of the strawberry. So lots of fun stuff happening. We have a notable Citizens Award that will be announced and given out. And then at the end of the day, excuse me, at 7 p.m., the music will stop and the North Madison Congregational Church drummers will be dispersed around the beach with extra drums to drum up the rising moon. So we hope you will all be there. It'll be a fun day, and it should really sort of be, the big party that we hope it to be. So, next slide. So then we continue on with our American 250, our semi-quincentennial, I don't know if you spell that, the 250th, with the things that we just do so well in this town. Fireworks, our Independence Day concert on the green, our Independence Day parade. And my throat is now going to be tickled. Excuse me. Thank you. I'm catching now. Our Independence Day parade, the Madison Garden Club is creating our float. We will come in right behind the honor guard and the fife and drum to be the grand marshals of the parade this year, honoring our town. And then at 2 p.m., the country is being asked to ring the bell. It is in commemoration of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And we will be handing out these bells at the festival. So we hope you will come. Liberty Bank has sponsored this. They will be Liberty Bells. And it'll be a fun thing to do throughout town. So at 2 p.m., we would love for you to participate. If you don't have a bell, ring your keys, what have you. So next slide. So we also, because we knew this could be a year-long event, and we all are good volunteers with day jobs, we couldn't do it all. So we engaged our nonprofits and asked them to co-brand many of these events. It's just a smattering of the folks who have participated or will be participating, who do what they do all year long, but we want to express an opportunity for them to share with community. They will have tables at the festival, so people will hopefully come along and learn something, and maybe we'll groom a whole series of volunteers. And then next slide. So we wanted to not just be on the green or at the surf club. We want to discover the whole town. So what we've learned from our history is that Madison was divided into 13 school districts. And if you don't know which district you're from, we can help you figure that out. Come to the festival, we'll let you know. But right now, we have about 7 of these districts committed for an event, which means we need 6 more. So if there's something fun you know about where you live that we don't know about, come see me, get in touch with me, and we'll set up a district discovery. So on June 26th, the night before the festival, for those of you who don't know, we once had a princess live in town, and that is the 1897 cottage called Oak Ledge on Island Avenue. And at 6:30 on June 26th, the folks who live there are going to put a concert on a 1-hour musical serenade to a princess. So come, bring your beach chair. We're gonna work out parking with Avenue School, Our Lady Mercy rather, and we will just start to share some of the history. For those of you who don't know, the folks who lived in this house started the Garden Club 101 years ago, and also were responsible for one of the most early companies that put on summer stock, so hence the musical concert. The Norton Town District will have a birthday party for Daniel Hand and then Henry Griggs' house on July 18th. It coincides with his 50th high school anniversary. So he's inviting the public to that. We just celebrate our downtown so well at our Chamber of Commerce Madison Beachcomber event. So that will celebrate our Boston or downtown district. The next district will be celebrated at an open house at the Mercy Center, where they want people to know more about them and know that their facilities are open to you all. It's one of the very first public members to come to our meeting, was Joe Oslinger, who just passed away. And Joe is so looking forward to bringing us through the Rockland district. So the Madison Land Trust is going to take that on. He had wonderful stories. And I'm sorry, he's not going to be able to fulfill this, but we will honor him during that district discovery. Peggy, who lives in Union District, is going.
My neighbor is gonna be hosting.
Is gonna host.
Yeah, he
this
is.
understanding
It's
of these schoolhouses.
in September, yeah.
Oh, and all right, I need the date. We'll get it up there. These are all on our town website. And the Liberty District is going to explore the role that trolleys played in our town. So here's Ryan, who has just walked in. So here is Ryan. So next slide. So ecology, we've had some wonderful events and we'll continue to have more. Map for Trees gave out a number of trees this spring. They're going to do so, and shrubs, they're going to do so again in the fall. The Madison Land Trust is going to get posted on our website. It's a number of hikes. If you do not know the town by way of some of the back, trails, then pay attention and join them. They're welcoming everyone. And of course, the Madison Garden Club, if you didn't go to the plant sale last Saturday, they had a great success, and they continue to take care of our both in our public relations. They take care of our float for the So we're very excited for these folks who keep our town beautiful and understand what it takes to keep it beautiful for the next 200 years. Next slide. So we are about to open our online store. Will be through Tyco. So our lovely logo, which has a great representation for the legacy of the moon over Texas and the boat building and continued sailing legacy and the ripples of the water from before to beyond take us through to a way to create pride and beauty. And so we hope you will all support us. This is a fundraiser for the work we're doing. And next slide. We will have these at the festival. We would at least like to acknowledge our key sponsors. We have many sponsors, and I thank you all for the donations you've made, the significant donors which have sort of taken us to work that creates a festival of this making is Liberty Bank and Bank, the Madison Foundation, who is handling our bookkeeping, Gaylord Specialty Healthcare, Warner Wealth, and they're all listed. So, and if you would like to donate, there's a QR code there online, so we would appreciate and we will acknowledge you all. Next slide. And so our next steps sort of buried in details. And we continue our second round of fundraising, but more importantly, we want you all to participate and be a part of this. So come have fun with us, be proud of where you live. And if you have ideas of things that we have missed, we did not miss intentionally. We are going to honor the 25th anniversary of 9/11. We're calling it a memorial, so I love your idea. So please be a volunteer. And then I'll just open it up next slide to questions.
Fantastic. A lot of hard work, a lot of events, and crunch time is the next 6 weeks, right?
Well, we're doing all year long, but
And then but they're
party.
yeah.
Don't rain.
Yeah. Any questions by the board? So I think this and the
What's that? I
website
think it
was
must be
gonna be
No, you did a great job.
Yeah.
Roz has put a lot of work into this.
So have like members. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
Yep.
So I know this is gonna be exciting to start attending all this, and please check the website. It'll be up to date.
And it changes every day. So
So there's always new information, and we'll be doing a social media campaign this month, so it'll be pushed out a lot, so people will have constant reminders of all the things that they can do to participate in it. So thank you for that. The next item is to talk about the Surf Club Master Plan. So at our last meeting, we had Chad here from Kent and Frost to talk a little bit about seawalls and beach and how to approach this with the options at the beach. I know a member of the public had raised that earlier. And now this is kind of a broader plan. So I will turn it over to Chad and Austin.
So, thanks to the Beach and Rec Commission, we met last week on Tuesday with a special meeting and got to see a lot of the work that Chad has been doing all along. And happy to present tonight the work that came out of both Chad's office, Beach and Rec Commission. And I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with maybe not surprised, but happy with the outcomes of the planning process. Looking forward to sharing that with you tonight. Jeannie, are you able to?
I'm trying to bring it up. I had 4 open on my computer. Hold on one second.
So I'll quickly start. So again, Chad Frost from Kent Frost Institute of Architecture. Tonight is going to be just a brief snippet. I do have some of the historical stuff that we talked about last time with the seawall, the beach nourishment. Very happy to hear that. That is one of the main things we're presenting and proposing as we go forward. But really what we did is last week we presented the Beach and Rec 3 different concepts. So after we took in all the public feedback and almost the last year of work, we came up with 3 different concepts. We went through it with them. And in the end, they felt they could kind of kick one out entirely and consolidate two down to one. So we have the fourth, which we're saying is kind of their recommended consolidated plan at the moment. We want to run all by you fairly quickly and get your opinions on, how do we take all four of those to the public? Do we really say, here's the three that we work through and here's the process to get to this fourth? And I also want to preface that this is all extremely beginning conceptual work, right? This is out there so that we can get feedback and continue to incorporate. So even if we consolidate down to one kind of conceptual plan going forward, we still fully expect that we're melding things together as we go. So this was the historical stuff that we talked about last time with some of the shoreline and the areas of erosion. You can go to the next one, Gene. Sorry, maybe back up now that I told you before.
Just look at where the points are, like,
So this is
west the furthest.
This is Surf Club,
Yeah,
right? And then we just took a snapshot. We didn't go to particular end. We looked, the whole point was looking at where we end up getting high levels of erosion because of the way sand migrates along the coast. Sand's moving this way and the water current's moving this way. And so we get things to kind of build up, and then where we have a rocky outcrop, the sand drops out and we get erosion on the backside. And so that's what this was looking at. This historically over time, that's what's happened on all those points. There you go ahead. Next one, Gene. This was the slide we had at all those public information sessions. I won't go through it all, but it looked through the 1934 coastline, the current coastline, the coastline with 20 inches of sea level rise. We talked about flooding and impacts and had some of the photographs from the 22 storm. Next slide. This was our flood modeling for different storms from the current sea level, 10-year storm with current sea level and 20 inches of sea level rise, and a 30-year storm current with 20 inches of sea level rise. And the big takeaway was that in the future, with 20 inches of sea level rise, a 10-year storm has more significant impact than a current 30-year storm does. So we're starting with the higher elevation, smaller storms have bigger impacts. So you can go to the next one. This was our ecotype typologies, just looking at what we have as existing conditions. We'll go to the next one. Kind of skip through these. So this is a great one. Talking about options for beach nourishment, existing kind of coastal condition. If we were to do simply beach nourishment, how much we might do, where the existing seawall is, that is an option. Then we talked about the beach nourishment with a living breakwater and a dune restoration behind it. This is what we've heard through most of the public input that the public is engaged in and trying to look for a more natural solution as opposed to the hard infrastructure. And then we also have acknowledged the fact that an engineered sill still meets the requirements in Connecticut terms. However, the public probably wouldn't like this because you'd have basically a jetty just off the coast, which kind of interferes with the whole enjoyment of the ocean. And so conceptually, what we're working with is taking a section like this and applying it to the master plan so we can see how much land that takes up as we do our planning process. So next one. So getting into the three concepts, this is concept A, very high level. We have a driveway coming in, we have a drop off, we have bike head connection that comes in through the end. This one looks at a 2-story new surf club that's moved slightly over, a playground adjacent to it. The parking is in the same orientation it is now with slightly different changes. A driveway that comes through. We're celebrating the entrance to the stadium, and it continues up. We have a more celebrated defined parking area up at Exchange. There's a true drop off here at the lower end location of Exchange, and then a significantly expanded parking area up above. Perfect. And then we do have a road that works its way all the way through. There is a kind of a power line and an area for that to happen pretty quickly. In order to do some of that road, we flip-flop around some of the fields. We keep all the field counts the same, but we have to reorganize them a little bit. And then we also intersperse ADA walkways, stairs, all those things that meet code that we currently don't have, as well as then some additional nice to have like small playgrounds for siblings so that there's something, another activity instead of just athletics. What I'll say that we've heard from the committee on this one, they like the location of the building and some of the activities that happen right here at the front. Although they like the location of basketball, we've taken both basketball courts and put them next to the baseball field. The feeling was that in the next plan, you'll see there's a parking lot that can fit in there. And they thought the parking was better there because it can directly serve some of these baseball fields that don't have adjacent parking. Those are used for youth sports specifically. And little kids tend to be running back and forth across the street. So we looked at relocating where those could go if we put parking there. And then there's a future plan that they liked the parking arrangement from that better because of the connections it made. However, they really liked this portion of the plan from A. So that was A. On B, this one, that's that parking lot I mentioned, right? A small parking lot that goes right next to Strong. We moved the basketball courts onto the beach side of the road, if you will. We had the surf club. This is now a one-story expanded surf club building, and I've got a slide for how much space that is in a minute. Moved closer to where it currently is. The feeling from the committee was that this is a whole lot of stuff happening right as you come into the surf club. That there's parking lot, the basketball courts are right up to the road. Some of the bocce courts are moved over to this location. And there was just a lot of activity happening right there. They liked some of the passiveness, some of the playground in this location. They really like the reoriented parking lot. So we get more parking here and we get a whole lot better pedestrian circulation through some spines in the middle of the parking lot that align to the main entrance of the field. And then also aligns down here to come down to the beach campus. This one also had the same road going out. We changed the parking lot. The other one had parking here and here, which works from a grading perspective. This one, historically, 100 years ago, that hillside was cleared as part of the farm. So all the trees that are there are kind of second generation, or first generation, I should say. So we thought that could be an opportunity for a parking lot as well. However, there's a lot more grading that happens there. There's some exposed ledge. So the feeling is this is probably a little bit more expensive, which is why we chose the other one going forward. And then if you want to go into the next one, option C, this one looked at taking a surf club building and pushing it all the way out to Garvin Point. Historically, we know there was buildings, on Garvin Point, and that then would keep the entire beach experience just from a park lake perspective. And so we came in and had dune restorations, the basketball courts along there, the volleyball courts. We had room for an actual skate park, and kind of did all the activities right along the boardwalk that would kind of be the unifying feature with the building all the way over. The opinion from the committee at this one was that the building over there is just too far out. It's too far over there. In that orientation, it blocks all the views to the west. The sunset, particularly, if you're out there trying to enjoy it, you now have a building potentially in your way. It's the high, dry ground, but it also might not be ideal. Some of the circulation in order to get to the drop off to the front door means you're going all the way through the park and looping through a one-way road. And it was felt that that was less than ideal. So then if we go to the next slide, which is what we're now calling our option D, preferred compilation plan. This takes what we heard from the committee is the best parts of A and B and starts to combine them together to really start getting a lot more input. So again, we come in, we do have a new drop-off location. We have a place for parents to be able to drop off and loop back out again without having to go further in. The basketball is now on this side, but it's further away. It's not packed right up against the road. And we've taken the bocce that had been here and pushed it back over to closer to where it was, so that we've kind of spread out the space there to make it a little bit more inviting as you come in. We did get this parking lot up next to the field so that there is a loop in there for parking to get directly to the youth fields. There is still some pull-in parking here towards the beach so that people can still pull in. I should note, right now as you come in, there is that big parking lot as you come in. And the feeling was all the parking needs to kind of go and be more congregated back here with some areas along the road that's truly just pull off parking that will help slow traffic down. And so as people are pulling in and backing out of those parking spaces, the road doesn't become the highway anymore. The people self-modulate their traffic and their speed because of the fact that somebody could be pulling in or backing out. We do have a full drop-off loop here at the building location, so the new surf club would be somewhere in that orientation. And I should just stress, this is just here for massing. Shapes and things like that are going to change tremendous. The location of it, somewhat of the orientation, where the decks could go, where the access can go, the public front entry, the snack shack and some shade sails to the sides of it. We are doing beach nourishment, I should note, all the way along the full edge. The existing seawall is pretty close to where that heavy dark line is. And so you can see how much we've pushed things a little bit back so that we have that room for beach nourishment and the dunes to happen before you get to the building. This one, we've brought the playground down to this location. There is a splash pad. We've heard from the public. There is some interest. We've also heard from some of the public they don't like it. So we've left it in here to get that feedback back from the public as to if it's really warranted or not. There is a little bit of a lawn space. Again, the reoriented parking lot with a lot of pedestrian connectivity to get you to either the front entrance to the stadium or right to the surf club building proper. We've oriented now the bocce courts over here, kind of radiating off the new parking orientation. And then the existing picnic grove remains. We have to move the horseshoe pits a little bit, but the grove basically remains. Over here on Garden Point, we've basically opened up the lawn, maintained it as a big lawn. We've put a pavilion over there on the back side so that you could have events out there, or it's a shade structure for most days, but a great space to be able to kind of have community events out there. And instead of a whole road going towards it, it's basically a driveway that gets you there for a utility drop off and back out again. We have a bus drop off adjacent to the field. We then have a pedestrian kind of roundabout, if you will, to drop off. And this big pedestrian connection with the potential of a outdoor classroom amphitheater that looks out towards the wetlands. So it has a pedestrian connection back to the field. We then have sidewalks that connect both all the way along the road. This is a new road that's 24 feet wide that goes back to the backfields instead of just a 10-ish foot dirt path that's currently there. We do have some room for some additional parking. Thinking in terms of this, that's kind of a great one for some more accessible parking on game days and coaches and referees and that sort of thing. Parking area. We would still celebrate the boardwalk that goes through and connect all the rest of the trails, but then have a full-blown sidewalk adjacent to the road, knowing that people are going to go back and forth. That would be lit. Come up here, again, a drop off on the lower level, new circulation, new bathrooms, the new playscapes, walkways, stairways, and then that preferred parking arrangement for the upper sides. So this is the first time probably the Beach and Rec has seen this, because this was late last week. We met a week ago. We kind of cranked on it through Thursday, Friday to get it back in time for your agenda. Again, this is really here, not to say this is the final plan by any stretch. It's just the first thing to be able to start taking feedback. It's a lot easier to provide feedback when there's something to look at, because it makes you kind of visually realize what it may or may not mean. I should just note from a parking perspective, this one, existing parking, we have about 78 spaces. Proposed, we'd have 131 or 137 up here on the exchange field area. Down below, we actually lose just a couple in this configuration. We go from 402 to 391, but in a net, we're gaining about 50 spaces of overall parking with this configuration. And then really quickly, if you want to go to the next, we'll probably skip a slide. Yeah, we can skip this one. That's some programming diagrams. This is the building footprint. Wanted to talk just briefly. Existing, you have a building footprint that's about 5,500 square feet. It's broken up between circulation, banquet program staff, everything you guys know that's there. We've looked back at the assessments of the building over time. Going forward, what we're recommending, if it's a one-story building, you need about a 10,000 square foot building area. You get significant improvements in the entry and circulation, so we go from 490 square feet to about 1,200 square feet. The banquet space more than doubles in order to get the size of the events you want to have. There's a program space that you currently don't have that we heard there's a need for, so that's about 1,500 square feet. Staff goes from 16 to 1,800. Food service goes up by a couple hundred. Restrooms goes up by several hundred because you now have a bigger building, and we increase storage a little bit too. That's for a 1-story footprint. For a 2-story footprint, the total floor area goes up to about 13,000 square feet. The footprint itself is about 9,000 square feet, so it's less than this one, but obviously not quite as small as the existing one. And that increase is basically the circulation, right? We now need stairs to go upstairs, we need elevators, we need hallways upstairs and hallways downstairs. And so there's a lot more circulation, but we still get the same banquet space, program space, staff space, food space. We do have more restrooms because we now have event space up and down. And you do get more storage because we now have a second floor that's available to them. So that was my very quick, very fast talking summary. And I think what my impression for tonight is to hopefully get any of your direct feedback and then have a discussion about how we take this out to the public, which will be a much bigger presentation where we summarize all the public input. We go through the historical beach stuff and we kind of lead the public through the entire design process, not just this very short abbreviation.
So before we get more comments, just want to highlight a couple of key assumptions in this. One is that the old 1980 seawall is go to where that just kind of goes away, because you have to do that because we've relocated the building and so that seawall goes away.
Correct.
The second assumption is building and ground operations are gone.
Correct.
We have to have a home for those, but they are not going to be on site anymore, which we know is a problem and has been a problem for a long time. And so it's not a great location for those operations. And then the third is that you do demo the surf club building, the existing surf club building. So that's a key assumption. There's not going to be, we're not elevating, moving it, we're not renovating it. And that'll be questions we get a lot from the public about why that decision was made. But it's not a decision. No decision is made, but a recommendation.
The recommendation.
Right? And the plan assumes that is, we're going to build something. Basically.
And that's what we heard very strongly from the public. So it's not just my recommendation, it's the feedback that we got that was very strong from the public. And
keep in mind, because of the age structure and it's in the floodplain, you have to elevate it in order to make any renovations more than 50% of the value existing structure, which creates a lot of other to it. So I just wanted to highlight those things. And then open up for board conversation, and then I think we have to decide how we want what the next move is. And there's other commissions I know, Coastal Resiliency, for example, has not had an opportunity to review this. So ideally, it would be good to have another, session where they can have an opportunity to weigh in and do this public process.
Wasn't one of the criteria also have a throughput exit?
Absolutely.
On some, so every one of them has that.
Every one of them has it. I didn't highlight it on that third one, which the committee basically tossed the entire concept. We had that one where we actually utilized, you want to go back? Yep, that one. Yep. So we actually were looking to utilize the cart path on the golf course. So there's a portion of the cart path that comes onto the property. We looked at it and said, if that was to go wide enough to be a one-way emergency in a major event, obviously not when golf is being played, could that be an option, right? And it's in theory an option, but in reality, it was not well received.
And that's what I was going to ask. With the other options that were proposed, is that access road open all the time, or is it only for events?
So what we're proposing is that it would only be open for events.
Okay.
Right, so that you could come in. Do you want to jump forward one? Thank you. So that would most likely just be gated off here, so you can come in and park there.
You can still get to that parking lot.
You can still walk all the way through, and likewise here you come all the way up and have parking and be gated off there.
Okay.
That's obviously open for all sorts of instructions.
Right there on the side.
This, yes, yeah,
Only for exiting.
Yeah.
During events, right?
it's a wide enough. We're showing it as a 24-foot wide road, so that in
two-way.
in large events it could be 2 lanes of traffic exiting. In theory, you could do some two-way. What we don't like we don't want to create a second entrance to the club. We don't want to have to staff a second entrance, right, and create confusion for where people can come and go. But I think it's a discussion that can definitely be had as to, the assumption right now is the closest to how it currently exists is there's a small lot here that serves those upper fields. And we can let that remain. And this can serve all these areas. It's conceivable that we could say, we could block this differently and you could access all this parking from above. Or you could access all of it from below and not at the street. But it gives you some flexibility. But the intent is to not making a full second entrance.
I wanted to ask about the other road, the main access.
Yeah.
Is that part of your jurisdiction? Does that road need to be elevated?
Yes. My short answer. We are looking at it as far as how it comes in and affects here, both the road and then what we're recommending is a full bike lane adjacent to it that then connects to the rest of the bike facility or proposed bike facilities. But yes, as part of that, the road you should be looking at LD. You look at the flood mapping, that's underwater.
Also, my 6th grade son and all his friends will kill me if I don't ask this question. Why is it only in option 3 that a bike park was shown, a skate park, I should say?
Good question, because we didn't get strong feedback in our public input sections to warrant it quite a bit. What we heard was that doesn't get used very much, partly because maybe it's not great and it doesn't have a lot of features. And so it was kind of like, it's great if we have room for it, but it's maybe not mandatory. And there was some questions about, as far as all of the assets in all of the town of Madison, is this the best location? If you want to invest in a skate park, should this be the site? Or should it be?
I heard Ryerson.
I heard Lenore Drive.
Well, we do have a bike rack and some jumps there.
So that's why we fit it into one, again, to kind of have that conversation that it could be a more central theme if the public desires it. It didn't really rise to the surface of the rest of the public input, but we wanted to at least signal.
Okay.
Can I ask an obvious, maybe it's not obvious much, but you guys obviously went through a whole series of options as Beach and Rec as well. And I think to me, there's a fair amount of sensitivity in the town right now to cost, rightly so. And so have you guys started to notionally put together what costs might be for each one of these options?
Not yet. No, generally in the way.
And where is that in the process?
Perfect. So the way we normally have done it and what we've talked about so far in this process is that we don't, because of the size of this and the scope of this, we don't cost everyone. Right, we kind of say, well, everyone's got a parking lot and everyone's got potentially a new building. And so attributes are kind of, they're equal across all the plans. Like I mentioned here, we think it is kind of an a la carte menu. This might be slightly cheaper than the other one, which is kind of why we said maybe. But down here, the basketball courts here versus here, cost differentials negligible, if anything. Amount of pavement is pretty similar between all of them. And so we don't let the cost be the driver at this high level.
Or feature functions.
Correct. We want to know what the public wants and where we want to do it. And then we worry about costs from a phasing perspective and an implementation perspective. But that's the next thing. Once we get through the public input and we get some, feedback that we're headed in the right direction, then we start generating costs and we start figuring out phases and what people's appetites really are for things that they want. Because it could be that, it's in theory one giant big project, or in theory it's a whole bunch of projects, or there's some CIP projects that we could do here and there, and then there's some big things like the building, right? That takes some time.
How far is everything moved back or elevated up from where it's currently positioned, just so that folks can kind of create a visual for themselves?
So it's hard to see probably without being able to zoom in, but right there, that's the Garden Point. Those are the stairs that have been discussed, and the walls right there.
Jenny, could you zoom in a bit more?
I could. In the future, we'll have a whole bunch of vignettes, but it's basically, I would say, in rough numbers, let's say it's moved back 50 feet.
Okay.
Right. It's moved. It's something. It's not nothing, but it gives us the transition.
The base of the building.
Yeah, in rough numbers. But we are then trying to make it so there's a beach and a dune and everything's
So that's like a gradual
Correct.
upslope.
So at the end, you won't feel that you're further away from the beach, but we've moved you back and we've given nature the ability to do what nature wants to do and use the beach around. And what I would say as far as the wall, we are imagining that the existing wall is gone. And that doesn't mean that it's entirely not there at all. There might be a wall that's inside of that dune. There might be some structure underneath of it where we have critical assets that we need to protect. There's still some things that we do, just probably not visible at the surface at this level.
And just to be very clear, when you say existing wall, you're saying old wall,
Old wall.
not new garden wall.
Correct. Excellent clarification. We have left everything that's brand new there.
Perfect.
And then there'll be a change to the new dune condition as we go.
Yeah, figured that's right.
Yeah. Good clarification.
So one sort of objective, if we use this as the working
model,
the working draft right now,
Yep.
is the lack of picnic space near the surf club and the play.
Lack of picnic space.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly haven't shown picnic tables, but we can look at zones. We have plenty of room. This is all potential lawn space. And we can certainly find some picnic space within there, not to mention the shaded areas to either side.
So I think there's newer areas too that.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be
something
families are gonna want the something like the configuration we have now, where you've got the tables and the cedars, and you've got the playground
Yeah.
and the beach, and they're all close proximity.
Yeah.
Families aren't gonna want to be 100 feet back for a picnic table and running back and forth or chasing multiple kiddos.
Kids
around.
going on opposite directions. Yeah.
Well, the right side's adults only.
We didn't spend a lot of time. I love the pavilion idea.
Yeah.
As an occasional performance space and having concerts on the beach. I mean, I think that could be awesome.
So what we can do as we keep going, getting ready for the public, we can throw in more of that detail so you can see picnic tables. At least have some way of identifying that feature on such a large scale.
Yes, yeah, because I agree, Bruce, the picnic tables and the grills are always highly used.
Yeah.
So,
And that was one thing we did, I would say as we reoriented down here to get a little more parking space, we were parking, the bocce shifted, there's things down there that moved. We did eliminate some of the grove, but we kept as much of it as we could that has all the picnic tables in it, as well as in all the, not picnic tables, but the grills and picnic areas. Same with all the grills and everything on that.
Now, the green immediately adjacent to the beach.
Yep, probably.
That first sort of bad green.
Yep.
What is that?
That's our beach dune, beach nourishment.
Okay, so that's not flat space to
Like
sit
ammo.
and meet. That's
a dune. That is the new coastal feature.
and would you envision that to be a limited access space, sort of like it is at Himmanassa?
I would expect that we have a couple of controlled areas, like a handicap ramp that goes through it, the stairs, access around, that the public goes through in controlled points, not just anywhere on the dune. We want the dune to have grasses and things growing on it, to do its thing.
The acreage where the maintenance sheds are currently, how is that going to be?
So we occupy that. That's a good question. Basically, the entrance to the stadium and celebrating that, getting the drop off, the bus drop off and loop around, and then the educational space behind, and then some green space is basically where the existing maintenance shed goes now. Which is why right now, if you go out there, when you walk out of the field and out of that gorgeous facility and everything, you're looking at the maintenance shed. What's wrong with that? It's got an aesthetic, yeah. But so that's where by pushing the driveway around and trying to get that very strong architectural presence of that field entered on a landscape and drop off gets the public up to it. I should also note there's a little bit of space here adjacent to the Now we created a little, I'll say mini parklet, if you will. So again, picnic tables and some things like that. We have noticed watching kids, and teams as they come and go, there's not a lot of shade as or anywhere adjacent to the field or in the field surface. So having the ability to have a little coaches area before, after the game, team areas are getting on and off buses, family area if you're going to have like a little barbecue as the kids are coming and going from the bus, adjacent to the field is a nice thing.
From a planning and strategic perspective, this is the upland section of the property, the beach and the nourishment strategy. Are we able to substantially have those as two different conversations? Could we start a nourishment conversation today while we take time to figure out the upland portion of the park, or does one dovetail into the other?
My short answer is we can always talk about either. There might be implications. We know the building where it currently is in the way of where some dunes would need to go. So as far as like, could we implement the whole beach nourishment thing right now without any other changes? Not easily would be my answer. But we could certainly start talking about it. And from a permitting perspective, if you say, if this gets well received in the public and that's where we want to go, because we know we have a known issue with the wall and we need to fast track that, then that's definitely possible. And it just has to have some caveats as to how we deal with the direct upland impact things, primarily the surf club building. So,
but we could, for lack of a better word, dump sand on the beach. Tactically, strategically.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about the boat beach and the point, and basically feeding the western side of the property, because we know all that sand is going to move to the east eventually. We could build that up, almost backfill against that failing wall. And even if it only buys us 5 years, it still buys us 5 years and gives us time to figure everything else. We don't get dunes necessarily right away.
Correct.
But burying that wall doesn't destabilize it, right?
Correct. Is my short
It's got to come out. All roads lead to it coming out and being replaced, but in the near term. Okay.
I'd say that yes is is the short answer. There's nuances, but yes, 100%. That could be, if that needs to be phase one, certainly can.
To that point, I know I've heard from the public many conversations that maybe one of the criteria for this program needs to be sightlines, the ability to see the ocean. Was that discussed?
Absolutely.
In the conversation?
Yes.
I would think dunes would impede sightlines.
So the dune that we had in that section, we were trying to show dunes that are in that 30 inches to 40 inches so that most people can see over that dune. We're also talking about elevating a lot of this area inside and would be behind the dunes. Like the parking lot, for example, in order to meet our stormwater requirements, we elevate the surface and make everything below that part of our infiltration area, and we're infiltrating the stormwater below the parking. We get a benefit of both infiltrating all that stormwater, but we get the benefit of having a higher parking lot. So you're standing maybe 2 feet higher than you are currently, enhances your view out over the dune. Same with the building, we know it's got to be up several feet, so everything back there is kind of elevating. The hardest part, to be very honest, is going to be where we're trying to keep some of the groves of trees and some of those things that are going to be down low, and what do we do? There's the Gaga pit that's out there that's like in a depression, it's down in a hole, with no drain, and so we know it's a known issue that gets wet, and it's one of those things that if that stays in that location for an extended period of time, it's going to be more.
That's, I'm not noticing it. Facilities for like bathhouse, bathroom, like we have the separate building now that's closer to Garvin Point.
Correct. Yeah.
Is there something like that?
Excellent point. So we have shown a building here, kind of in between the lawn and the playground. That could be that bathroom building is what we're showing. I'll also note though that it is now as the building's slid over, it's pretty close. So that's a conversation I think we should have as to, is it here or is it something that maybe gets in the new pavilion structure, does the bathroom go
I think it
there?
makes sense to have it close to the.
Close, and I think there's arguments both ways, right? We have then noted extra bathroom structures up here at the athletic fields as well.
Will they be open? Regular basis?
Now you're getting into
That's the struggle.
Why wouldn't it?
Well, there's a lot of times we go to the stadium and the bathrooms are all locked at the stadium. So I don't know if that's a coach's thing or whatever the case, but.
If the teams ask for us to open.
Okay, so probably just a communication then.
So I think, obviously lots to take in.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry. When you guys were evaluating public feedback, beach and rec conversations, was one of the options to potentially save the current building?
No.
And
Well,
why?
I mean, well, I should say.
And if the answer is no,
Yeah.
why not?
Well, what we heard from the public was all the feedback we got was basically the building is old, dilapidated, can't be used very well, and would take an enormous amount of money to do anything with it and make it what we want it to be. People liked the quaint aesthetic of the building from the outside. They didn't appreciate any of the aesthetic on the inside. And knowing that the building needs to be lifted and moved. All of the feedback we got back, I shouldn't, all is a strong word. I'll say a very high percentage, 90-something% probably, was it should just be a new building.
We talked about it in Beach and Rec, but the building is in the velocity zone right now.
Yeah.
So it's at risk of wave action. So
It has to,
improving a building that's potentially hammered by waves is
Not recommended.
questionable judgment.
And just clarify for me, Austin, you may have to answer this, but is there any historical value to the building itself? Because my understanding was that was the clubhouse, right, of the old golf course.
Sentimental value,
Yeah.
more than historical value.
Okay. And that's there.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's effectively what we heard from the public too. There was this, the quaintness of it, the smallness of it, people like, we heard, don't turn it into a super big glass modern thing, right?
Right.
But it needs to be nicer. We need it bigger and bigger spaces so that the public can utilize it for what it should be.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think that one of the, we as a board decide, when do we want to have a more formal public discussion? Do we want to like give direct inputs, the version of this and kind of bring one concept to the public? We want to have two concepts, and it's better just to kind of. So I think
I do.
there seemed to be kind of a merger of the two concepts.
Yep.
And I think the agreement was.
So that was a
the
hybrid
one-
of what we saw anyway.
Yeah, because the one outstanding kind of outlier was moving the building to Garden, right? And that was kind of an extreme discussion, but it was more reflecting in the past, because that's actually where there had been buildings at a certain point, but I think it was seen as not going. So you kind of started creating this merger.
Right.
And then the idea is, do we take that then? And ideally, I was hoping to present something to the public in June before people kind of go away. Get some really good detailed input from people. So, is the board comfortable with that then?
I think the adjusted model that Beach and Rec came up with, I think should be the jumping off point for the public
Yeah.
discussion. If there was there could be a little bit of the prior iterations or not. I'm not married to that. But I think, going into it with the understanding that there's going to be a lot of pushing and pulling and
This is by far not the end result.
we're
Yeah.
100% assured of not ending up with what we've just seen on the screen. How far off it goes, I don't know.
This
So I
is
think-
still considered a conceptual
Very,
design.
very much so.
So I mean, I think that needs to be all over.
Yeah.
And I think then, some of the outstanding issues would be highlighted, what's the question marks that are still kind of haven't been addressed, and then the lead up to how you came to this design would be part of the presentation. As well as the beach conversation at our last meeting.
Correct.
And you're not touching the boat beach at all.
What we've talked about so far in the boat beach is to basically do a heavy beach nourishment over there. when you look at it historically, that area has eroded the most. And so if we really do a lot of focus on a lot of beach nourishment there, that'll help slow the erosion on the rest. But that's about it. Basically, maybe a rearranging of some of it, trying to make some efficiencies over there, and then significant.
I think one thing that you can do to help us is to start organizing the project into likely phases. Blocks,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So the upper parking lot area, maybe that's a block that impacts fields, right? Because that is the push and pull there. The surf club building, ideally we could do this like a big stadium. We could build the new building in the old parking lot, and,
Right.
but I don't think we're really going to get that here.
We're far enough away you could do that. You could leave the existing one wall built.
Okay, so
But I might tweak what you just said too, because I think there's also this notion of like, talked about this little spray thing when the kids go.
Oh, splash pad.
Splash pad. It almost seems like there's must-haves and, it's like wants and wishes or whatever, like it feels like we could organize it a little bit with some of the bells and whistles versus things you have to have, the building.
Well, what we would normally do at the big public information meeting, right? We go through a longer presentation, we educate everybody, and then we have boards and a lot of different input. And we let people, we want everything. We want all the comments so they can all get out. And if things like the splash pad, we want it double or we want it going. And that's what we need to know from the public, so then we adjust the plans. And to that point, normally we don't start phasing quite yet, but we could certainly look at it and say, here's some obvious things that we know could be chunked off. It gets complicated with roads and parking and stuff like that in the main area. But
importantly, you can't do this until you do that type of things. I mean, because the first and last question we're going to begin to get once this goes out is, what's this all going to cost, and how long is it going to take to do it?
Right.
I appreciate we don't have the costs right now.
Yeah.
But to be able to get a sense of how
even notionally
the property might be managed over a period of years, what sections might be worked on in phase 1, phase 2, that kind of thing would be helpful.
Yep.
So, I guess then we would target sometime in June for a public information session. I'm just wondering, although I think I know talked about a date of June 10th. Some board members.
I'm out of town.
You're out of town. So. Yeah, I mean, I guess.
When does school end?
18th.
Yeah.
When does school really end?
June, well, the last day of school is June 18th, and they're all checking out already.
Now.
Because Peggy, I think what you're saying is if we don't get to people before that date,
yes. Yeah, and if you look at kind of the first 2 weeks of June, there's a lot going on. So I think that when we met, we thought maybe June 10th was a good day. And
if that's the day that works, I mean, I can get feedback, watch videos and everything else.
They'll be recorded and also available by hybrid. But I just want to.
Could we have a space at the festival that would maybe be a
beautiful
information space that day?
Bruce is offering to work in.
I am not.
And I think this is a lot. It's not the only opportunity. It'll be the primary opportunity to see the presentation. It'll be a little where to give the presentation and stuff. And we'll do it at a larger venue than here. Possibly we did the River, but the schools are tough to get into. So we got to figure out location. So to come, we'll nail that down, and then we could maybe have other ways to get community input.
Perfect.
So we'll come up with a plan because we do want to get people before it gets kind of everybody's focused on going to the show versus, although, that's a good opportunity to get people's thoughts. So, so let's plan on that. And I'll reach out to the other groups about ideas for dates and locations. And we look forward to continuing the conversation. It's great to see this moving forward.
Could we ever do it at the circle?
We could, well, try to get,
You only do 75
75 feet.
Yeah. But you could have some like other sessions, informal sessions for people to come in and walk around. You know, having the formal presentation, but then having like maybe come into the surf club building on a, you know, but the problem is the summer. It's used a lot, but maybe there's an afternoon where we could use it where people can come in and write their comments on words. So,
Well, we can certainly set it up there, you know,
Yeah.
information, whether it's,
Feedback center or something.
Yeah.
go a QR code that takes you to feedback or something like that to be able to help you. But I just think we love to get it in person,
yeah,
right? So that people can, it's very easy to misread plans. And if you're coming and going, I'd love to put up a plan there at the beach and people can see it and give us comment, but a lot of times it might be misunderstood as it's read without any information given. And you know, we might.
and it's concepts. It's
Yeah,
not
100%.
Yeah, so it's just looking at a diagram or whatever, trying to understand maybe what the meaning is and the thought is behind it, right? But we'll come up with some ideas, I think, to do that and to get to public feedback. So, and then this will be available obviously on the website too, this presentation tonight, so start watching it. So thank you for that. The next thing, in the interest of time, I'm gonna table item 10 to our next meeting, and I did have a really fancy little slide to talk about. I made a nice little planning slide, but it does touch upon the fact that this master plan is going to obviously come out with some costs associated. The facilities master plan is going to be completed this summer, so we're going to have a lot of interests, you know, in different projects. And so I think we talk about how we kind of put this all together to a more 10-year capital plan. And so I was going to start watching into that tonight, but let's see. My ideas doesn't mean it, maybe it's just circled, but we'll talk about it a little bit. So we'll if everybody's good, we'll just table item number 10 to the next meeting. Item number 11 is an update from the opioid settlement task force. So I know Scott Cochran is here, and this is basically to talk to a group we put together about how to use the funds that we're getting from those legal settlements. From the drug companies who were abusing opioid prescriptions, basically, and it causing a lot of issues, obviously. And we had a consultant, you know, unfortunately, Catherine Martin, if you remember, she'd been on before about an assessment of the needs in the town, and from that, task force put together an action plan. They're here to talk about that action plan now, and maybe if you could summarize where we are with funding and.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll walk, there's a very short slide deck and it's all pretty straightforward. If you remember the conversation we had with we had the culture change, Jess Kathy Barnes, was her group, and she did, as Peggy mentioned, consultation. We got a lot of stakeholder feedback in terms of how we would use opioid settlement money from the folks in town, as well as municipal employees and educators. If you recall, there were a lot of different ideas, and I think if there was like a few main themes, that report very much supported settlement money that was allocated to Madison being used to mostly benefit Madison residents, and that there were a number of different ways in which we can really put that money to good use. So we started, as a task force, started to look at, you know, how we could look at this and sort of break it down and make sure that we were meeting as many of the special needs that we could with our settlement funding. So our current balance, so as these are lawsuits that have been settled and money distributed through the federal government to the states to the towns. Towns had to opt into using these settlement funds, which Madison very smartly did. Our current balance of those opioid settlement funds is wrong up here. This was as of the end of, right before the end of April, we did actually get one more payment in. So the actual number, and I didn't want to, I realized this today and I couldn't change it in the packet because you all had this information already. So it's now up to $231,000, basically $231,000. That's what the town has as its current balance. So, as we thought about utilizing the settlement money, we know that uses of this money, there's no time limit on this. We have time to spend and consider how we use this, but you do need to use it with approved uses. So these were all guidelines that were clarified in a number of the settlements. The one that's noted here, distributor settlement, as well as the Janssen settlement. As we put together the task force, we thought about primarily how we wanted to create funding categories that would meet with some of the interests that we had out of the consultation. And we created 4 funding categories, and I'll walk you through those in a second. Next slide, Gene. Establishing the task force was really important up front. And as a municipality, we understood that we had this funding and there's interest and energy around identifying things that we thought were important for the town. But also there were a number of nonprofits and other groups, community members that are aware that we have this funding. And so naturally people were, I think, asking us questions about how they might access some of this funding. And we did get a request from Demand Zero. That's a local nonprofit that does primarily opioid prevention and education. So we had initially these 2 requests. So establishing the task force became important, not just so we could understand this fund and how we wanted to address it globally, but also we had these 2 requests that we wanted to be able to consider, and I'll bring both of those to you as a part of this discussion tonight.
Yeah, and the idea here was just to kind of handle this like we did in last fund. You know, some of the money was for town use, some of it was, we put up the committee that then had public conversations about, you know, anyway, then there was a process to go through to awarding to outside. So we kind of an application. I think we looked at the ARPA application as a model. So.
So next slide, Gene. So the task force committee members, essentially, these are all folks that are involved with the town, with social services, public health, medical services, emergency medical management, and the public school system. So we tried to make sure that we had the least busy people in the town involved in this particular task force. So this is with Peggy's input, really, her guidance. This is how we put our task force together. And we've been meeting really for the better part of the last year, and now more regularly as we've kind of gotten a little bit more conceptually around what we want to do with the funding. Next slide, Gene. We created 4 basic categories, and we determined a certain amount of funding to go into each category. So this really hits on everything that we talked about, if you remember back to that consultation and that conversation we had. So first, thinking about the 2 bigger buckets. So municipal capacity, so about, and we can play with the percentages. These were sort of rough around the numbers that we felt where we'd be spending more, likely spending more of this funding. But 41% of the fund we thought would be focused towards municipal capacity. So this would be like anything within the town, buying medical equipment, Narcan, things like that. Another big bucket we thought would be creating a mini grant program. So this would be something that we could create, but a little bit more in terms of guidelines and access to for community providers and nonprofits to ask to use some of this funding. The 2 smaller buckets, prevention and education. So this would be about 9% of the fund, about $20,000. This we would earmark towards prevention education, so things that we would fund normally under like the Maine Drug and Alcohol Coalition or other things that we could do in town. And a pot for direct assistance. So that particular category we would have connected to social services in town. So that could be direct assistance, say if we had somebody identified who needed money for transportation or money for a specific kind of treatment program, they could request that money through social services, and we could have a fund through the opioid settlement money in order to fund that. So these are, just so we're clear, these are our 4 buckets, and I think we've got pretty much everything that we identified as a potential interest fund covered in any of these buckets. Any questions on the buckets?
Just actually one, on the municipal one. It reads, to basically to manage the settlement funds effectively. It seems like a lot of government drag. 41% of the funds are going to administer the administration of the funds. Feels like that's an awfully large number.
No, I'm sorry, that's the fund that we would use to purchase things that are approved through the guidelines. That's not the man, this isn't paying town staff to administer the funds. Municipal capacity, so enhancing municipal capacity really is using opioid settlement funding for things like medical. The task force wanted to get Narcan, and that's one of the requests right now. That would be coming out of this particular part of the budget. Is that
okay? Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I see staffing, and I'm afraid.
No.
Yeah, no, it's to support staff that are addressing the issue. Not,
Yeah,
it's
that's
like-
not. This doesn't.
So,
Okay.
but we should make that clear.
Yep.
And then I had a question, the grants for providers, like specialized treatment funding, is that for maybe things that wouldn't be covered by an individual's like insurance for
Yes.
treatment and that sort of
For
thing?
example, yes.
Okay.
And like a provider, we had a treatment provider that say wanted to pilot a new program to support family members. So they could make a request for a mini grant to pilot that. We could require, them to show us how they would use that money and how they would show outcomes. And they could request the money through this process. And that's just it's a category that we would apply that if it was granted.
Scott, with each one of these categories, though, it's obviously you get your money sort of set aside or earmarked, but does that task force kind of go through the process of saying yay or nay to recommendations before it comes to the board?
Correct. Yeah, so similar to like what the town did with ARPA. So the task force would take the request, they would either endorse it or approve a part of it. You'll see that for the two requests, and then bring that to the board of selectmen, and I assume
Just like a vetting process.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they make a recommendation.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Any other questions on categories? Nope. Right. Jeannie, next slide. So out of the two requests that we have currently before us, the first one by Demand Zero. So they did they were a big part of creating a virtual workshop, which happened, I believe, about a month or so ago. And the request was made before they did the virtual workshop. It was to include 12 Daniel Hand classrooms, about 120 students at Daniel Hand did sign up, or with the 12 classrooms that would include about 120 Daniel Hand students. Lisa Dean, who is the head of Demand Zero, asked for $20,000, and you can see in your packet, they spent about $80,000 of Demand Zero money, and not just for Madison, but this was a nationwide effort. But Daniel Hand was definitely included in that. So she asked for essentially a contribution towards that effort. We discussed it at the task force. We felt, one, we hadn't had our mini grant program fully well defined. So like we wanted to honor the request, but we also didn't yet figure out exactly if we had like limits on money that we would approve through mini grants. And we thought we wanted to fund part of it. And the task force endorsed funding half of the $20,000 request to provide $10,000 to Demand Zero, with the idea that once we're done, completing our mini grant process, that if there were other projects or other things that they may want to fund, that they can come back and ask for more funding.
Is one of the criteria that you imagine you'll be using is the localness, if that's a word, of the request? I mean, I applaud the effort for a national education thing, but I wonder how much of the national burden Madison should bear. I think certainly in Connecticut alone, there are other communities that could pitch in. So
I think one of the things the task force considered in this case was the work of Demand Zero in general. And the fact that they've done a ton of prevention and very proactive prevention and education, programming within the town over many, many years. So certainly she's in very good, or Demand Zero is in very good.
absolutely. I'm thinking about moving forward as you evaluate.
Yes. But the localness, yes, to your phrase, yes, that is, I think when we determine a scoring rubric, that's going to be probably pretty high there. We felt really good about endorsing $10,000 from the fund that would come out of that mini grant category.
Is there anything we get back as a result? And sometimes, for $10,000 investment, we might get something. Obviously, we had a nice session that happened at the school, but is there any documentation or pamphlet or I don't know, whatever?
There's a flyer
that we could run next year.
Yeah. I don't know. We can talk. I can certainly reach out to Lisa and see if there's other things that we can move forward and turn this into more.
It'll allow us to do it again next year.
Yeah. I think this is going to be an annual.
It's a live event. Yeah. This is a live event
with other.
Yeah, there's there's information in the packet that we get that talks about it. I mean, maybe it will be recorded. It could be replayed.
It was recorded, and actually, Polson is viewing the recording because they were going to consider sue for to see if they could also use it at the Lower Middle School. They didn't sign up for the one. All right. Next slide. So this came directly from our own staff. So we would like to purchase Narcan kits and place them right next to all the AED stations throughout the town. So that was in 22. So for example, where the AED is out here, there would also be a Narcan kit placed next to it. And there'd be a Narcan kit placed in basically 22 of those medical stations throughout. We need signage as well. So the budget based on Russ Pearson looking at the cost is about $7,600. And that was also something that the task force
is that under lock? Is that, am I seeing that little? Yeah. Anybody gets that?
So that's an AI generated. How they, Russ couldn't be here tonight, so they have to be accessible. So we would be able to get to them.
Is there a correlation between events that require an AED and events that might have Narcan? Is there I'm just thinking we're going to put an AED next to the pickleball court. Does that really need to have a Narcan station with it as well? Is there, would it be better plastered on the side of a CVS or something like that?
Well, I think the idea is basically to have the medical equipment all in the same place and accessible for people. So if you're directing people to one place, if they see a medical crisis, if it's determined or if there's some indication that it could be an opioid overdose, then you know that you've got the Narcan, and you don't hurt somebody by distributing Narcan at that time. In fact, you could save someone's life. So a lot of what the rationale behind this one was, let's have all of the life-saving equipment all in the same places so we can direct the public and have signage so everyone knows where it is.
I appreciate that. And this is going to be a bad analogy, but you wouldn't throw a life-saving buoy up in the same place as where all the AEDs are because they're site-specific. So I guess, do we have a heat map of where emergency services has responded to this type of crisis? And are we placing them in those locations?
I'm not sure. I don't know if I can answer that, but that might be a good question for Russ or for Sam.
I mean, I think a lot of the things, they're at public spaces, right? So fields, where people can show up and where you can get random people wandering around our parks and in your facilities. So I think that was the thinking, those are public buildings, public spaces. You get people of all kind of backgrounds and shapes and sizes that show up and might have different megaphonies. So that it was kind of trying to be simple about it, because the other issue, and I know we had this with AEDs, is you have to swap them out every once in a while, and there's a maintenance associated with this as well. I don't know how it works with Narcan, because it does have expiration dates.
It does, so we'd have to follow that, and it's possible somebody could take the Narcan out and take it, and we talked about that at a task force meeting, and to be honest, the consensus was good. We'll replace the Narcan kit, because if somebody took Narcan and they have it on them, it's likely that they need it, so. And we've got plenty of Narcan. It's one thing, within town, we've got kits. This is purchasing kits and signage specifically for these areas, so it's a good expenditure, but it's certainly something that we would, replace public schools.
Oh, and there's, well, maybe if you want to not approve this one tonight, that can just be brought
No,
for the.
I just want to make sure that, it is a life-saving measure. I just want to make sure it's deployed in a place where
It's needed.
it's actually going to be,
Yeah. Well,
it has a likely use or has a possible use.
Scott, is any training required to administer Narcan?
So you can be trained to administer Narcan now. It's administered through your nose. So it's generally not hard to administer. It's a squirt in one nostril and squirt in the other one. And it is in those kits. They do come with instructions. And there are Narcan trainings that.
Scott, once these things are deployed, who's going to be responsible for them?
Well, so there'd be medical equipment, and so I imagine we would that would fall to like whether it's Beach and Rec that looks at them or Russ or Sam. They have expiration dates on them as well as.
So it's a great question because Austin is so overconscientious about all of this stuff. He goes around and he personally checks on all the AEDs. He replaces the electrodes, I think, before they expire. And yeah, I would hate to think this is yet another thing. Maybe it's an opportunity to delegate. I don't know, but
I'm not sure who does that within the town. That sounds like an Austin thing.
Pass about this because we expanded the number of AEDs in town through donations that we received, and I know Sam was involved in them. Well, your task force are all the people that are related, so I think they've already had the AED experience, right? Which is more, I think, requires more than just sticking another Narcan in there. It has to be, it's equipment. So I mean, the team came up with this. They thought it was worthy.
Yeah.
I think this was Russ's idea.
Yes,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, so, and it was a suggestion. I mean, I guess we could try it and see. Obviously, if it's, you don't want to see it successful, right? Because then these people are using it, unfortunately, but, we could see how problematic it is. Or not. Yes. So,
I'm happy to vote on that.
Okay. But these are all good questions, and this is why we want to have a conversation about it.
Let's vote.
Yeah. So I guess with that, at number 12, discuss and take action to request from the opioid settlement task force to disperse funds from the opioid settlement account pending Board of Finance approval for demand zero in the amount of $10,000 for synthetic opioid drug addiction and awareness programming and the Madison Ambulance Association in an amount of $7,590 for Narcan.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. But now you guys will know all the questions you're gonna get.
No, this is really, I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and I think it's like in our public, right? It was like a lot of things come out of the blue, all of a sudden you're like, but I think it's important that we make good decisions and we don't want to just throw money at stuff, obviously, and Madison fortunately doesn't have the need as much in terms of like opioid issues, although we do certainly have a population of one that has suffered from it. So we want to be very smart and tactical. So thank you. Good.
Did you vote on both?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Motion. So you're all good. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys.
All right.
Thank you.
So item number 13, oh God, it's bothering this. Approve routine line item transfers for the fiscal year 2025 to 2026 totaling $514,960 approved by the Board of Finance on 5/20/26.
Second.
Okay, and normally this stuff goes first, but because of timing, and it's just kind of important that we get this done. This is a year-end reconciliation that happens when we do.
Normal stuff, yeah.
Normal stuff. So I don't know if there's any further questions. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number 14, discuss and take action to approve a special appropriation request from the Madison Police Services of $135,000 for the overtime special duty account for the year-end reconciliation approved by Board of Finance at 5/20/26.
So.
Second. Okay, any further questions or comments?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 15, discuss and take action to accept a recommendation from the Facilities Department to award a contract to Integrated Technical Services in the amount of $98,306 for the replacement of the Daniel Hand PA system, and authorize the first selectman to sign all documents associated with the solar companies on the state contract funded in fiscal year 2025-26 and 26-27 CNRE Board of Ed Security Project.
So,
Second.
I wanted to hear you read that number. That was great.
Sometimes I do it actually. What another goodness.
I don't want to take the wind out of Ben's sails, but do we need a big presentation on this?
You aren't getting one anyway.
Yeah, it's on later.
I was gonna give you the 9 o'clock. This is the briefing. I'm just ready.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 16, discuss and take action to authorize using the Ryerson demolition account for the demolition of TCLC as part of the school renewal plan.
So moved.
Second. Okay, and this is basically, we're trying to bundle, right?
Yeah.
You know, because it's demo and, it just made more sense and there is funding available. So I don't know if you need a further explanation on this.
Yeah, just real quickly, there was gonna be a $350,000 SIP project going through the committee's process this next round to do a regular demolition on TCLC. But Sam and his bunch have offered to burn the structure down. But there was some pre-work that goes into that and then a little bit of post-work. So what's before you tonight is the post-work, which is an estimate to clean up all the debris, dispose of, grade, topsoil, seed, pull the foundations out. So we're going from about $350,000. This not to exceed proposal is 71.5 for the disposal. Couple of other activities which won't come before you, they're small enough, is removing the HVAC units off the roof and removing the rubber roofing material so you don't have a big tire fire. So those couple things will happen beforehand. They burn the building. We're estimating it's going to be about a quarter of its volume when it's burned down. And then Brazza will come in the day after and haul this stuff out.
So
good cost.
is there going to be like a spectator area with
I'm hoping so. Actually, the bicentennial, Madison 200, 250. Yeah, that's another event. Yeah.
Bring marshmallows, yeah.
So my only question is, this then does not affect the demolition of Ryerson itself?
It does not. It's pulling, so Ryerson has at least $2.5 million attached to it. This all in is going to be 125. It's just using that money because it was all part of the school renewal plan.
Right.
We just wanted to just solidify it that we are going to use a piece of the money to get rid of TCLC.
Then we.
Yeah.
Are both firehouses?
I don't know. They might even pull in some other towns. I don't know what they have, but this
Is it deemed as like a training event?
yeah. So they're actually
in charge.
yeah, they're actually going to be doing some activities before it's burned out. So we're gonna do our thing. We'll give it to them. They'll train it down, and then
They've already been.
yeah. I'm working
Oh, I
more
saw.
on utility disconnects and all that stuff. Process now.
There's some dummies in there. There's no doors left.
Wow.
Is there a ceremonial moment for demolition?
The burn, I guess.
I'd say this one more than most. Is
Yeah.
ceremony.
I'm going to do the arrow.
The Molotov cocktail.
All the 5 cents we get a flavor.
Well, and when Ryerson gets demolished, we'll definitely do something.
Oh,
Yeah.
somebody, let me press a button, somebody, pull that.
Okay, so good.
All right.
All in
Yep.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, item number 17 is discuss and take action to award a contract to KE Brazza Construction in the amount not to exceed $71,550 for the former CCLC building debris removal and site restoration, and authorize the first selectman to sign all documents associated with this award funded in fiscal year 2022 school renewal plan.
So, second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and then,
Is there any risk, by the way, of, there's homes around the area too, is there? I'm sure they're gonna do
Is there
a
like a
safety
communication plan?
Yeah, definitely. Already started talking to Sam on that, in terms of trees back, stuff.
That would think like the smell of smoke is.
Yeah, okay, don't call the fire department.
Right.
We're already here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
tennis court, we did this, right?
Right, to shut down the tennis court.
Soccer game going on.
No, this isn't happening like next week. I'm doing a lot of our work now, but this will be planned in advance, promoted, communicated.
Yeah.
Item number 18, discuss take action to accept a recommendation from the Facilities Department to award a contract to Gilbane Construction for $179,249 for renovations to the Polson Life Skills Lounge area and authorizing the first selectman to sign all documents associated with ZOR. Funded in fiscal year 24, CNRE Polson bathroom ADA updates, and the 2026 district repair and project program. Rip, that's a new one for me.
This year.
Yeah.
Second. Okay, any further
So this is money that's been sitting there since 24.
Yeah, so again, the 9 o'clock version of this is, there was a project, Berlin came on board in 24, we were just executing it. It had gone out to bid to renovate restrooms and exterior doors at Folsom. Apparently, part of that project was actually doing this life skills room and the teacher's lounge, a combined space. It was pulled out at the last minute before the project went out to bid for budgetary reasons. And then the project was done, wrapped up and everything. There's $110,000 left. Conversation I had with the principal back in December of 25. She said, "Hey, when are we ever doing that life skills?" That was all brand new to me. I was over here when this happened. I went back and looked at all the documentation, saw that it was in fact part of the contract docs, and 3 weeks before the bid was actually pulled out. So I took that set. I think that it was rather elaborate. I think it would have cost close to 300, if not more, to do it that way. So I tinkered with the design a little bit. Like, wait a minute, we have Gilbane here this summer. It's all the same subcontractors. We're doing abatement. If we're not doing it this summer, they've got to wait till at least 2028 to do it. We can't do it during the school year, and we can't segment it because to get the cabinets out, you get to take the floor out, take the floor, and you take the cabinets out. So we're like, let's have Gilbane look at it while they're here. They priced it using all the rates established in their bid with all their contractors. They actually provided some good insight into get the cost down a little bit more. They had some adjustments on what I was proposing. So we got down to 179. Then it became a matter of how to fund it. We said, well, we have the 110 that was intended to have this as part of the original project. And then for the rest of it, that DRIP grant was due this year. There was not a project allocated towards it. So we grabbed 68,000 of that roughly, I think it was 114. And I just pitched to the board before I came in here today, and they voted to use that money for their portion. So kind of a rare dual award situation going on there, but it'll be a good thing to just knock out and get behind us.
A lot done at Polson, right? It really is.
Yeah, you get the contractors on site, we're gonna do it all at once, you know.
Exactly.
Building shut down. Yeah.
All right, any further comments, questions? No. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, guys. I'm sorry you got stuck this time. I tried to get you in the front, but I also had Scott wanted to be up front. I had Austin wanted to be up front.
No.
But I knew there was gonna be a lot of
Thanks,
public.
guys.
So thank you for hanging out.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and then I guess.
Probably could be good surplus stuff. No, weird, right? But that's.
Well, you got to see the surplus.
Thank you.
Again.
Yeah.
David version.
Always
So
a
that's
pleasure.
good.
We'll see you guys.
Yeah.
Any public still
With
on?
that, then, yes, so moving on to citizens' comments, there are no more public in the room, yes, okay, we have one public.
Perfect
Like to
time.
make a comment?
It's a revolving door.
I would. Yeah. Looking at the surf club plan, I think it's a great, idea. Everything there. The only thing that I would ask to consider is like with the existing building, right? I've been here, 26 plus years. I think I've been in the building once. And I think most people in town are like that. I love the idea of, a place to have events, proms, weddings, whatever we want to do. I think is phenomenal. What I look at is, like on a good day, you have, 500 people on the beach, and you're going to have an event facility right there that's locked. Like it is today, it's just going to be a nicer version. If you took whatever building everybody decides that they want, and you move that, let's say, over towards where the garages are, right? It could be raised up, you got to park it below, or just mounted so you still have views and all of that. But where the building is kind of planning out, if you had a pavilion, so picture you took the surf club today, knocked out all the walls, so it was just, a roof and a place for picnic tables, that could almost be another event space you could rent after hours. But I know, like, we got 6 people in this room and 3 of them have sunburn on top of the head issues. So being able to get out of the sun is, 50% of the rooms got to be on board with that, like get some funny tan lines with that. But I just because then you almost end up, so let's say if you do have a wedding, I want to have a wedding on a, Saturday or whatever. Now you have a wedding facility, let's call it, for the day that is with a public and beach attire, running around all 4 sides of it. If it's, you get a little bit of separation, so just something to consider.
Yeah.
You've got, like, you look at your real estate, so, you got your best seating at a concert or whatever, and you're moving back and forth. Like, I don't think anybody's going to say, like, I'm not going to rent the facility because it's pushed back a little bit further from the beach. If they are making those choices, they can rent
As long as
a
they
beach hotel.
As long as they can see the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
The ocean.
And again, like where, like, I don't want to get into a tree thing, but like, where the boats are stored and you have that tree area there.
Yeah.
That could be a facility building where it's still there, parking, the whole, it's just something else to think about back there.
Thank you for your comment. Yeah.
And again,
And there'll be an opportunity for public comment, obviously, when we hold the June meeting. So I wasn't sure. Are there any hands raised online? I don't.
No, I don't see any.
Gave up. All right. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You're right.